The underground world of crime had two heirs poised for power: Jungkook, the future Mafia king, and Hwan, the future Mafia queen. Bound by blood and empire, their families were business partners, but they had never been allies. Their rivalry was a legend, a tale of ceaseless battles, accusations, and schemes woven like spiderwebs between them, each string a delicate balance between sabotage and survival. Jungkook was all sharp edges, his dark eyes a silent promise of destruction. A ghost in the night, his movements were calculated, ruthless, and efficient. People feared him not just for his strength, but for the mind lurking behind those obsidian irises. Hwan, however, was just as lethal, her presence like wildfire, unpredictable, consuming, and utterly untamed. Her enemies didn't just fall, they burned. Their animosity was a game of chess played with real blood. Whenever one of them moved, the other countered, turning every venture into a battlefield. The underground spoke in hushed whispers of their clashes, of the shattered alliances left in their wake. When the police raided one of Jungkook's warehouses, it was Hwan's name that fell from his lips, a growl of rage curling around every syllable. Meanwhile, when Hwan's shipment of illegal firearms was intercepted, she wasted no time in tracking him down, gun pressed against the smooth line of his jaw as she hissed accusations. "You really thought you could outplay me, John?" she sneered, finger tightening on the trigger. Jungkook smirked, completely unfazed. "I don't need to play, sweetheart. You self-destruct just fine on your own." Hwan scoffed, pressing the barrel harder. "You're a rat, Jungkook. Always slipping through the cracks, causing chaos wherever you go. It's pathetic." Jungkook chuckled darkly, his hand suddenly wrapping around her wrist, twisting the gun away with practiced ease. "And you're obsessed with me. Admit it. You'd be lost if you didn't have me to blame all your failures on." Their second-in-commands often bore the impact of their chaos. Taeyong, Jungkook's right hand, had lost count of how many times he had to clean up the mess left behind by their endless war. Lisa, Hwan's most trusted confidant, was no stranger to breaking into Jungkook's properties to prove a point. One night, Lisa sighed as she patched up a cut on Hwan's arm. "You know, at this point, I can't tell if you two want to kill each other or just get it over with and make out." Hwan threw a glare at her. "The only thing I want from him is to see his empire burn." Meanwhile, Taeyong leaned against Jungkook's desk with an amused smirk. "You sure you don't secretly enjoy this rivalry? The way you talk about her, it's almost affectionate." Jungkook scowled, throwing a dagger at the dartboard across the room, the blade sinking deep into the center. "She's a nuisance, and I plan to crush her." Their crews had learned to adapt, knowing that destruction and dangerously charged tension was sure to follow wherever their leaders went. Then came the bombshell. At a meeting in the dimly lit heart of their family's empire, their parents delivered a command neither of them could disobey. "You two will be married." Silence fell like a death sentence. The fire in Hwan's veins turned to ice. Jungkook's smirk vanished, as if struck down by a bullet. "Marriage? To each other?" Hwan was the first to snap. "You're joking," she scoffed, crossing her arms. "Tell me you're joking." Jungkook let out a humorless chuckle, leaning back in his chair with a lazy smirk that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Oh, this is rich. Of all the women in the world, you think I'd willingly tie myself to her?" Hwan turned to her father, her voice sharp. "You want me to marry a snake? A walking disaster?" He'd sell his own soul for power. Jungkook leaned forward, his voice dripping venom. "At least I don't throw tantrums when things don't go my way, princess." "Enough." Jungkook's father's voice cut through their bickering like a blade. "This is not a request. It is an order. For the future of our empire, you must unite." Hwayeon's hands curled into fists. Jungkook's jaw tightened. Their hatred thickened between them like smog, their glares promising war. But they had no choice. Their fates were sealed. Days turned to weeks, and the looming wedding was an execution blade hanging over their heads. Neither had the power to refuse, but they weren't going down without a fight. If they had to be stuck with each other, they would make it hell. Jungkook made sure Hwayeon's morning started with 100 rounds of sparring, bruises blooming over skin as their training turned into an all-out war. Hwayeon, in turn, hacked into his private files, leaking false leads to the police just to watch him scramble. Their fights became the underworld's new favorite spectacle, but deep down, something began to shift. Late-night training sessions turned into long, heated conversations. They learned each other's weaknesses, but not just for battle, for understanding. One evening, as Hwayeon lowered her gun after emptying a round into a target, Jungkook caught a slight tremor in her fingers. He stepped closer, voice smooth but laced with curiosity. "You shake every time. What is it? Fear? Guilt?" Hwayeon scoffed, shaking her head. "None of your business, John." Jungkook smirked, leaning against the table beside her. "It's funny. The ruthless Hwayeon, hesitating with a gun, almost makes you seem human." Hwayeon turned sharply, her glare cutting through the dimly lit room. "You don't get to talk about humanity when you lost yours a long time ago." Jungkook chuckled, unbothered. "Maybe, but at least I know who I am." Another night, Hwayeon caught him standing by the window, staring at the city skyline, his usual arrogance nowhere in sight. She studied him for a moment before breaking the silence. "You always look at the city like it holds answers." Jungkook glanced at her, something unreadable flickering in his eyes. "Maybe it does." Hwayeon tilted her head. "And what question are you asking?" A ghost of a smirk touched his lips, but his voice was quieter than usual. "What comes after all this?" For the first time, Hwayeon didn't have a snarky reply because she had been asking herself the same thing. But then came the mission. The dream project, a test from their fathers. A corrupted senator was their target. His destruction was the key to proving their worth. For the first time, they had to work together. And it thrilled and terrified both of them.